Welcome back. This is Mike Proctor here on Real Wealth Podcast. And I have guests today, Isaac Sprague and Derek Walden. They are a realtor team within At Home Wichita Real Estate, and they're experts. I regularly receive their mailings. Very, very often I get mailings from them advertising current market conditions, referral partners, other handy people I need to know. They're just such an outstanding group of guys, and I have really appreciated getting to know them and knowing them over the course of growing their business. And so I'm excited today to hear more about just like what Derek and Isaac have been through, done to grow what they're doing today. Hear more about how they view life and what they may have to say about the current real estate market, even though, we'll talk about a lot of broader topics, but that's one that I would imagine many would like to hear about. So Derek and Isaac, welcome on Real Wealth Podcast today.
Thanks, Mike. Honored that you invited us to be your guest.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here.
Yeah. I'm glad you guys waived your fees for me, so we could get you on here.
Yeah.
Special circumstances.
Substantial fees. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, here on Real Wealth Podcast, we usually talk about just living the best life possible, getting, some tips and tricks from you guys or what that means for you, and also the entrepreneurial side. But before we go there, why don't we jump into a little bit about real estate, since you guys are both experts on the topic? What's going on in the world of real estate today for Wichita?
I guess first question we'd have is, do you mean commercial or residential real estate?
Okay. Let's go residential. I think that's where most people are going to empathize.
Well, I feel like lately it's been a whirlwind since COVID happened. Before then, we were seeing normal appreciation, and then we saw rapid appreciation for a while there. Wichita was in the top, I think, 7 in the United States for appreciation. And then we dropped down, I think, to 89th, but actually have more appreciation now than we did back then during 2021. So it's been a little wild.
Yeah, and it also depends on what market you're talking about. I mean, even in the Wichita area, we've got micro pockets of different neighborhoods in there. And so markets can be unique and different no matter where you look.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what is that? So if I were looking to buy a house today, what should I be looking for or looking to avoid?
I would say, like any industry, whether it be financial industry, insurance, you're looking for a person that can really take care of you, help you meet your goals and what your dreams are for real estate. That'll help you get the right home, look for all the things that could maybe be wrong with that house, and then also help you negotiate in that process what can, for most people, be very stressful and strenuous.
Yeah, and I would just say, as in any industry, you need a professional to walk you through complex situations. It's always changing, and you don't want me doing plumbing work at your house or doing drywall. And so I would just say having a professional that can help you navigate the market and just come alongside you, show you the process. There's a lot of misconceptions out there right now, a lot of myths. And so just having someone that can help bring clarity to some of that complexity, I think is helpful.
Okay. What kind of myths are out there right now?
I'll let Isaac tackle that. We've got actually a couple of things we've been hearing lately.
Yeah. Well, Security First is a title company in town, and they put out these infographics that we recently subscribed to help us get a better beat on the market. And they have a fact or fiction. We're in a housing bubble. So they are going over what happened in 2008 versus now. Some key factors are there's way more equity in people's homes now than there ever was. It says here that we're at a record high of $185,000 in equity on average for the U.S. Homeowner, and that's an increase from $48,000 in 2021. So that's pretty wild amount of equity gain. And then we're also seeing just low inventory. Back in 2008, there was like 9.4 months of inventory. So people were like, what does inventory mean? It means that theoretically, if in 9.4 months, no more houses were put on the market, we'd have no more houses to buy. So right now we're in Wichita, South Central Kansas, at 0.9 months supply in June. So, and then we have way more qualified buyers than before. The credit scores are higher and they're not taking bad loans out. and we're just seeing what the appreciation projections are going to do. And I think a key factor right now for people is interest rates are going up, and they're like, "Oh my, is now the right time to buy?" And I've often asked people, "Well, if you bought a house and in 2 years it didn't appreciate, are you all right with that? If you bought a house 2 years from now and you overpaid, are you okay with that?" And that really gives clarity questions to what might be a scary decision. And most people, I feel like, are kind of pushing further and further, and then they're not seeing houses depreciate, maybe a slowdown in appreciation. And so it's kind of confusing for them. So I feel like it's our job really to inform people, hey, what's going on? We're your advisors. We're not a salesperson. We're trying to advise you, take care of you.
Yeah. So what's your response when someone says, "Well, I really wouldn't like it if my house was worth less in 2 years than it is today"? How would you have that
It's
conversation?
probably not the right time for you to buy.
Yeah.
Well, and I would just go back to what the data is telling us. If we go back and look at an appreciation graph for the Wichita area, even if you count the slight depreciation through our last recession, 2008 to 2012 timeframe, we're still averaging on the whole 3.7%. So on the whole, every year, you're looking at nearly 4% appreciation that we could be losing out on.
I think if you'd bought a house in 1999 here in South Central Kansas, you would have gone up 110% at least in appreciation. So your hard-earned asset money is stuck in that investment, and it's doing pretty well, I feel like. For something that you get to enjoy, live in, have memories with your family, it's a great return on your investment.
Yeah, and along with that, I'd say with the frenzy that we've had, May of this year, May of last year, you hear all the stories, oh, there's 37 offers on this property and, nothing but cash was getting them. And that is certainly the case in some scenarios, but also buyers need to be aware that there are still opportunities out there. There's still strategies that we can employ to get them into homes. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I was able to get a buyer under contract where we were able to negotiate $7,000 of concessions for the buyer. And this was a home that had not been on the market very long. And so those opportunities are out there. But again, this is where having a professional help illumine those opportunities for you to help show you what's available. Do we need to look at homes that have been on the market a long time, that have maybe some unique floor plan or layout? What strategies can we look at to get someone in a home?
Right. So, and also with the low inventory, there may not be as many options to choose from with trying to find their perfect fit, right?
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. And so they may have to wait a little bit longer if it's more about the layout or location, all these factors coming together.
Yes.
But as far as getting a deal, there are still deals that can be had. It's
Certainly.
It's not that there's nothing out there.
That's correct. And one thing that we enjoy doing is what's called matchmaking. And so if we catch wind of a property coming to market that hasn't hit quite yet, and it matches our buyer's criteria, I know Isaac's put together a couple of those, and that's really an ideal situation. But we don't know how to matchmake if we don't know there's a buyer out there that is looking for a certain property. So
yeah, I feel like just like at Leading Edge Financial, you guys are really good at providing clarity for your clients and saying, okay, what are your real goals with your finances? And so it's the same way in our job. What are your goals with your house? What do you want to do? You wanting to host? Or are you wanting to just have a spaced starter home? And helping provide that clarity, I feel like, is a large part of our job for the buying process anyways.
Yeah. Get down to how you want to use it and what's going to meet those needs. And it makes a lot of sense. That's a lot of how we tend to operate as far as looking at someone's money and making projections and seeing what needs it needs to meet.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Well, very good. Well, did you guys have anything else on the housing market you wanted to share, or should we move on to the next chapter of our podcast?
I know one thing I've seen that might be helpful for people and thinking about the future is I've heard agents on the West Coast and the East Coast, Florida, Washington, Oregon, talking about kind of a slowdown in their areas, and maybe not necessarily a slowdown in the sense of, oh, you're now not having to compete at all and houses are going down in value, but rather, okay, we have more time to think about this. There's more houses to look at online or in person. And so knowing that, it typically slowly comes to Wichita, that exact same scenario. So we're a little bit slower on trends, but it'll hit us eventually.
Yeah, and just looking at last month's report that came out, we were at 0.7 months inventory, and then now we're at 0.9. So technically, it's a slight loosening. I mean, it's by no means a buyer's market right now with 6 months being average, but it is loosening a bit, and there are a bit more opportunities.
Do you think home building is going to be what loosens things up to where we get back to 6 months of inventory, or
Sadly, I've watched videos on this around the country from development builders. They've talked about really just like you've seen where you're trying to go get wood from Home Depot for your new project. We've had a little bit of a better time with materials, but things like concrete are slowing down drastically. We're just not able to get it produced quickly enough. So I'd be surprised if, and in some ways, it might be protecting us. We're not able to build homes quick enough, so then there's not enough inventory, which then helps us be safe in a recession in the housing market.
Yeah, and do more with what's already built.
Yeah. Fix up what we already have.
Yeah. That's not so bad.
In the new build market, you've got almost a dual market because a lot of those homes are priced at a substantial price that many buyers just aren't comfortable coming in at. And so you're paying a premium per square foot, and you're also paying higher special taxes and higher general taxes. So that factors in as well.
Really plays in Wichita, where I think the average U.S. sale price last time I checked was $414,000, and we're at $230,000 average sale price. So we're well behind everybody else. It'd be a while to catch up to get to those new build prices at $300,000+.
Yeah, inflation's a real thing. I mean, you dump several $1 trillion into the economy. There's more money sloshing around to pay for stuff, and supply and demand principles still hold.
Exactly.
That's how it goes. So, yeah. But for those who have a mortgage on a house that is at 2% and locked in for 30 years, that's a pretty sweet deal that they can hold on to for a while.
A great deal.
Yeah.
Well, good. All right. Well, yeah. And so let's go to Derek first.
Sure.
So Derek, tell me about what it was like to start up this chapter of your real estate business. I know that you've been in real estate for 12 years now?
Yes. Yeah, it's been a while. It's crazy to believe, over a decade in the industry. I started off cutting my teeth working for a local investor. Got started that way, and then I just say that I was just too stupid to quit. So eventually made a go of it, and but having a wife and young child at home, and now we're up to 6 children. Definitely added up over the years, but I remember many rough years just kind of building the business, and eventually about year 5, year 7, really hit a tipping point. And then was fortunate the Lord brought Isaac into my life, and he's helped come in and revamp some systems and really get us dialed in on several things. So honestly, it's just been a beautiful roller coaster the past couple of years of just growth and building a team, and recently added Nathan Axman to the team as well. So excited for that.
I hadn't even heard about that. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Nathan's a great fit.
So you're up to 3 now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Three of us total. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
From just one. So yeah. Just want to grow slowly and organically, however that looks. So
what's the most important thing about real estate that you do for your clients?
That's a good question. Really, I think it's about caring and solving problems. And people ask, for my time in the Marines, how does that translate? And I'm like, well, in the Marines, every day I was doing something new and exciting and a new adventure. And also that sense of service, what we do matters. Well, really, in real estate, I'm doing the same thing. It's just a different playing field. The stakes are high. These are people's lives. This is their savings, their livelihood. And so to get to come alongside them, solve problems, to get them into a home, to help them thoroughly prepare listings, which is what my specialty is. I really enjoy the listing side. That I'm still serving. I'm still helping in high stakes situations. It's just a different environment.
Yeah. On that note, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
If people go Google Derek Walden in the Wichita Eagle, they'll probably see well, they may see more than one art. Anyways, but the one
they can see it all. Yeah.
Okay. But the one I wanted to highlight was your dagger getting found.
Yes. Yeah. It was actually a paddle.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
paddle.
Yep.
So it's a paddle that gets decorated
Yes.
by your guys, and it was a big paddle.
Yes.
Which means they
Yeah.
really, really loved you.
Yeah. In the reconnaissance teams, it's quite an honor because obviously you don't make your own paddle, and these are handmade paddles built with love and care, and so it just really reflects what your team, how they esteem you and how they send you off, and so to have a 5-foot paddle heading out the door was a really big deal.
Yeah, and then you had to say the size. Make sure everybody knows 5 feet.
Not to drop sizes, but and then actually the TSA,
it was big, yeah.
Then TSA took it on my flight back from Okinawa, coming on my domestic flight down to San Diego from Seattle, and I was assured that it was going to meet me in San Diego. I got down there, and then it never arrived, so it was lost for several years.
And then somehow, how was it found again?
Somehow through Camp Pendleton, some gunnery sergeant who was a luggage liaison, something or other. They're like, "Hey, we came across this," and in fact, they Googled my name and they saw that I was a realtor in Wichita. And but as soon as I heard that there was a gunny calling from Camp Pendleton, I knew it was going on. So it was a beautiful day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so glad you got that back.
Yeah, it was great. Fantastic.
And so Isaac, what's it been like joining the at-home Wichita team?
It was quite the adventure. I had a lot of expectations of myself and going into the business. And I tell people this all the time. I got into the business wanting to build relationships, having the time to do that. I knew I couldn't do that in a normal standard 8 to 5 job, not because I didn't want to, but because it's just difficult to do that. And the first year is rough, I would say. Learned a lot. The learning curve is crazy in real estate, and but just helping Derek out and getting to learn from. It was really a big asset to learn from a guy like Derek. And hey, how do I negotiate this? Hey, how do I represent my client in this way and help them out? And so I could get answers pretty quickly when I feel like a lot of people in my field, they kind of go solo. I'm going to do it on my own. I just always believed in let's ask the experts and see what they think. So that's been just a joy to work with Derek and now to help out Nathan and kind of pass the baton off on, hey, here's some information you can learn and here's how you can better serve your clients. So it's been exciting. I've gotten to build a lot of relationships. I get to host game nights with my friends and love on them and have the opportunity to do that, or just do gifts for friends, fun ways to just celebrate others. And so it's just been an exciting adventure.
Yeah. And and then even for your background, you did cross country, but you did it at a high level, right?
Yeah. I got to do collegiate athletics at Friends University, and that's how I got connected with Wichita. And didn't know what Friends was until my mom started doing her master's there. But it was great to be there and kind of fell in love with the city.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, you were really, really good at cross country. Like you were fast.
I was better at track, but
Okay.
I enjoyed cross country thoroughly. Yeah, it was a great time.
But back to your baton reference and not a torch.
Oh yeah. I got to do a 4x100 meter relay, and I think we managed to get 2-time All-American. That was a lot of fun, and just to be in nationals and be with some great runners like the Clark, Isaac and Jacob Clark, twins. You could probably look them up on the internet. They're all over with their accolades and their achievements. So it's great to be a part of their team.
Yeah. I would have to imagine so, but yeah, just kudos to you. And so a couple of high performers together, and back to on the business side of things, Isaac, you're more of a systems guy, and that complements Derek immensely.
I'm more boots on the ground guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's like, go get it done fast.
Yep.
And but Isaac, I know, has been able to bring more structure, which allows your
Absolutely.
business to free up capacity and go further, go faster, operate a little tighter.
Yeah, it's amazing what teamwork can do, and some ways I feel like it's my second marriage.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
You have to communicate. You have to learn to bring things up.
Taking the principles of Jesus and reconciling, and asking for forgiveness, and try to love on each other and our clients at the same time, and apologizing when we make mistakes, but also encouraging one another when we accomplish things. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. If you wouldn't mind, share what you're comfortable sharing about that. About like, okay, what does conflict look like in the workspace? Reconciliation. I mean, do you guys have an example you want to share?
Yeah. Well, just one is, both of us we can knock out details, but it's not our natural strong suit, which is why we have an excellent team behind us at Home that buttons up a lot of those loose ends for us. But yeah, so really on either side, one of us may drop the ball on really a small consequential issue, but it's something that could build resentment over time. And so just being honest and, fessing up to it and say, hey, I came short on that or whatever it is. But can you think of anything?
I could think of
like a whole bunch of things.
I got this whole list now.
Yeah.
I just need to get it off my chest, and I feel like this podcast.
Yeah, this is really an intervention.
I mean, just little things, just like in marriage, where I forgot to send out those mailers. Sorry, and forgive me for doing that. Or I mean, there's bigger things maybe on the investment side where you're working on a deal. It's like, okay, what does it look like to do a kingdom approach on this investment deal? You feel strongly this way. I feel strongly this way. How do we bridge that gap and think about how do we glorify God in this? And I feel like that's a big deal in our industry. Is like, okay, what does it look like to do the right thing when there's a lot of potential people that are struggling with high integrity decisions? How do we be a light in that situation?
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And what you described too is hopefully what's going on in a marriage, reconciliation of like, hey, I messed up, owning it.
Yeah.
Trying to make it right, fess up, move on.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it's a beautiful process and definitely keeps away all those hard feelings. Really helps us grow closer together,
Yeah.
I would say.
And I will say, when you know someone's character and you've been around them, it makes the problems much more easier to navigate. Although Isaac doesn't enjoy feedback, he takes it well, takes it in stride, seeks to improve. I'm kind of weird. I enjoy feedback. So when you tell me you don't like me for a certain reason, I like you more. But I'm kind of an anomaly that way. So,
well, I've got my own list.
Okay. Yeah. Bring it. But yeah, and then, same for Nathan, just knowing his character and being around him for a while and how he handles his photography business. In fact, they shot our vow renewal. So just, working with them alongside that process. And so, yeah, I will say that makes it 10 times easier when you know someone's character, you know what the core of their heart is. And so it makes it work out well.
Yeah. And it makes it a safe environment to tackle actual issues. So they don't just, build up, and it's so much all that extra weight just slows you down.
Yeah.
It slows everything down.
Absolutely.
There's a tax that you wind up experiencing as a business when people don't trust each other, when people aren't on the same page and feel the division.
Yeah, it's been a while. There's a book out there. I think it's the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, but kind of goes into trust and communication. And when you don't have that base layer of trust, then you can't be honest with each other. But I feel like on our team and in our environment, we can go right to the brass tacks of like, hey, this issue came up, and so I'm not having to dance around or use kid gloves with Isaac. I just go right to the issue, and then it gets resolved immediately, and then vice versa, hopefully.
Yeah, what a blessing.
So,
and what were you going to say, Isaac?
Oh, I mean, I couldn't imagine our team functioning for very long, and we couldn't have made it 3 years of marriage, quote in quotes, without reconciliation and encouraging one another too when we're down. I mean, everybody has their off days, and so encouraging and saying, you're great at this job, and you care a lot about your clients, you care a lot about the business, and also encouraging one another to spend more time with family. For instance, like, hey, brother, I noticed that you're doing this showing when you should be taking care of your family, when that showing could happen tomorrow.
And the other thing too is just with our time capacity, like, Isaac now has a young boy and family and married, and obviously I have a big family, and so our time is limited. And so just knowing that we have an amazing team to fall back on, I can look my clients in the eye and I can say, I would let you, I would have Isaac work with my mother, my closest family member, if I'm not available. So it's by no means like a demerit for them to have a showing with Nathan. And in fact, Nathan and Isaac excel at things that I don't. So in fact, in many ways, I'm serving them better to let them work with them on certain things. So it's just a beautiful team and a beautiful arrangement.
Yeah, and not everybody can see a picture of your family. What we're talking, how many kids? Do you
Yeah,
have?
so I have 6 children, 4 girls, obviously 2 boys. Both of the boys are 10. We've got from 14 to 2 years old.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, so we're experiencing all the different stages, everything from teenage independence to toddlers.
I feel like since I started this job, every year you got a new kid.
Yeah.
So, like, started
Whether
off
it's
with
foster children
4
or yeah,
4 or 3, and yeah, you had foster kids for a while. I think you're up to what, 7 or 8 at one point. It felt like it was
yeah.
amazing just taking care of you.
And then my wife
And with
is
the
amazing.
recession, you've lost one or two. Like,
Well,
well,
foster
we get-
kids, yeah.
thankfully
I know.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, we should clarify that
Yes,
though.
yes.
Like-
Yeah, we did not lose.
No. We've successfully reintegrated 2 of our sets of foster kids.
Beautiful. Yeah.
No child left
Very-
behind.
Yeah. So fortunate for that side. But yeah, there's one time where I think Tatum agreed to watch some of our past foster kiddos just for helping out. We had like 10 kids in our home at one time. So
I don't think we could do our business without Tatum and my
Agreed.
wife, Nicole. I think we'd be
Agreed.
doomed. I mean,
Yep.
for sure. I mean, having the wives to support us and encourage us, and it's a big power up.
yes, indeed.
Yeah. No, I'm amazed by your guys' way with kids. Regardless if we're hitting double digits or not. I mean, that's still like
Yeah.
for you to manage all that and the business. It's amazing.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah. Mostly Tatum.
I firmly believe that Tatum has a superpower that can work with kids.
Yeah.
If there was a superpower, she's able to do it.
Yeah.
So.
He's amazingly gifted. Very fortunate.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's transition a little bit. Talk about living the best life possible. So, Isaac, you want to go first this time and talk about, hey, what is living the best life possible with the time you have left look like for yourself and Nicole? You know, if she'll let you speak for her a little bit.
Yeah. I think so. So I would say the best life possible that I've kind of grasped is, okay, what does it mean to take kingdom principles? I mean, we've been working a lot on investments, for instance, and what does it look like to, you could go out and own a ton of rental properties, and for some people that's great. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but for us, we're like, okay, what does it look like to do this? How do we enhance Wichita? We were talking with some people, and whether it be city council folk, and they were talking about how there's just not enough people who own houses. There's a large rental market in these tougher areas, and so, okay, how do we give them like an option to lease and then own the property, eventually refinances out, and so we can help people get home ownership. I feel like that's one aspect. So I think that's been really powerful for me. It's like, okay, how do we help people here? How do we enhance Wichita? That's a legacy. Even if I'm not known for that, I'm okay with that. But at least I made an impact. And then family wise, I mean, I've spent a lot of time processing what does it look like to enhance my son Peter's life and build a legacy for him, whether it be his on his emotions, being there, connected with him, and just helping him love others better. And so I think like that's probably the most meaning I've gotten lately, is just loving into this 7-month-old and along with my wife. So
Awesome. And in there, I didn't hear anything like, oh yeah, we want to die with $30 million or, you know, that, but yeah, I mean, that's where, you know, you meet life and
yeah,
you interact with reality. And
yeah, I think we all have hopes of what we want to have and take home, and those are great things. I don't know if those. I've for 3 years I've been processing what's my why, and I hear that all the time from podcasts or books, and I think I've come more to the conclusion of like what gets me up today. It's probably helping others and being a part of my family, and so
yeah, cool. Thanks for sharing, Derek. How about yourself?
Yeah. Well, now that I'm 36 years old, kind of feels weird to say that, but 36. And I had some time to think about that. And I would say just, I feel like for much of my young 20s, being in the Marines, operating at the level that we did for deployments, things like that, I feel like I was always just kind of on edge, had that adrenaline kind of simmering beneath the surface, a little bit tense all the time. And there's a good book I recently read called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, and just kind of lays out like, what's it look like to live an unhurried, peaceful life. And so as I just reflect more on that, like that's really what I want. You can have a lot of stuff going on. I heard actually from another podcast recently, a gentleman who said, he's like, I'm active, I'm not busy. And I just felt like that was a good nuance. Like you can have an active lifestyle, you can have lots of irons in the fire, but busy just kind of has this connotation that you're somewhat out of control. You're you don't even have control over your emotions or your soul peace. And so as I look ahead, I just want to live like this utterly peaceful, utterly content, composed, holding life with open hands. And that's real. I mean, it's a daily struggle, but it's something that I'm definitely pursuing.
Yeah. Yeah. Another question for you guys. Mentors. You guys want to speak to mentors in your life and how you've been impacted?
I remember going into college. Before college, I had always prayed for mentors, and it's like, God, please give me some mentors. And when I got to college, I did not expect to get this many mentors, but it's been a blessing. From my pastor, Tom Brown, to a friend, other mutual friends of Derek and I, it's like, you can call them up at any time and say, hey, I'm dealing with this struggle, whether it be in business, family, friendships. I can call them up and they have me and can give me some advice. And usually I choose to follow that advice. And it's just, I don't feel like there's many greater assets than that. I have a friend, David Riffle. I think he did some studies with WSU. I think our city, on average, for males in our city, have maybe 1% of the population has a mentor.
Really?
Yeah, it's like 1 to 10%. It's pretty low. It's very low. Yeah, I think he has a podcast on it, or one of his articles on his mentoring-warriors.com website. But it's a very staggering number, and what greater thing is for an asset is to have a mentor.
It's kind of mind blowing because I've always sought out, and maybe that's the difference, is seeking out a mentor.
Yeah, I feel like people who could be a mentor, or they feel awkward to talk to a younger man or younger woman if they're a woman, and hey, do you want a mentor? And then younger people are like, oh, they're probably too busy for me, or I'm too scared. They might say no. But once they get to have one, they definitely want more, and it's hard to process life on your own. I think that's what we were talking about teams earlier. It's like doing it on our own is probably pretty lonely for Derek for a number of years, doing it by himself. And then we get to laugh together and have fun together. And I love mentors.
Yeah, and I feel like if you don't have any mentors, just taking that initiative to reach out to someone that you admire and respect. And but I think that's also one of the handicaps that our culture has right now, is just there seems to be a lack of initiative. There's a lack of, I remember Isaac sharing stories about even some of his peers, they're perfectly healthy in all ways, well-rounded young men, and yet they just can't seem to initiate with a girl and say, hey, you want to go to coffee? At some point you have to initiate, you have to take that risk, and you have to pursue. And whether it's a mentor or a future spouse, you just got to get in the game, and it's totally worth it, though. And I feel like God's blessed me with the right mentors at the right time for what I've needed in different, journeys of my life. So I'm very
reminds
grateful.
me of there's a book called Rejection Therapy, where this young man goes out and seeks rejection. I think for 100 days he would find something to get rejected about. He had one episode where he went to a random stranger's house with a soccer ball and cleats on and everything. He said, hey, can I play soccer in your backyard? Just knocked on a random door in Austin, Texas. And surprisingly, the guy said, sure. And later he asked the guy, why did you let me do this? This is like a weird thing. And the guy's like, I figured I'd kick myself if I said no, because it's such a bizarre question. And he was like watching this really important football game to him. He had all his gear on and everything, but he canceled that and watched this guy, took photos of him playing soccer. But I feel like in business and in life in general, if we're terrified of rejection, like I was 3 years ago, it's really hard to go forward. You really are thinking about yourself. All right, how does this person perceive me? Okay, this is what I think they perceive me as, instead of saying, okay, I'm calling them up because I want to love on them. I want to be a part of their lives. I want to listen to them, see what's going on, wish them a happy birthday. That's special, and that's not thinking about myself. And so get out there and I guess accept the rejection, and most of the time you'll figure out why or get yeses eventually. So it's a pretty powerful message that guy does in his book, Rejection Therapy.
Yeah, it might be rejection proof.
Or maybe it's rejection proof, yeah.
But I think, and he may have had I know he had a YouTube channel, and maybe that's rejection therapy.
Yeah, this quote, this is why I got Mike Proctor here to help me out. We're a team.
Yeah, well, we were trading books before we went live already.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Yeah. Yep.
And on that note, actually, books can be a form of mentors. I mean, they're not necessarily living today, but still an amazing source of wisdom. So I love Audible, both for fiction and nonfiction, but there's mentors and wisdom there as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So Derek, you're 12 years into the real estate business.
Yes.
What business lessons have you learned that you could share?
Yeah, there's too many to list. I just say perseverance. And also, really one of the biggest lessons I learned was humility. As you can imagine, serving in the Marines, serving in the reconnaissance teams as a point man, being the sole person leading my team behind enemy lines, it kind of puts a chip on your shoulder. So when you get back to the States, people don't understand you. They don't know what you've been through. And no one, you rarely hear people characterizing Marines as being super humble, and there's a reason for that. And so I brought some of that back with me. Confidence is good, but being arrogant, there's no place for that in business. And so I felt like people should hire me just because I was a badass. And that's really, it's not a logical connection. It's just something that I brought with me. So I've learned that business is not about what I've done or how even competent I am. Obviously, you have to be competent, but business is about serving others, solving problems, adding value. And when I've shifted from that slowly over the years, from it's not about me, not about how cool I am or what I've done, it's about serving others, then that's really my business took off in a major way. And so that's probably the biggest lesson I learned is just being humble and not being afraid to be in the company of great people. Isaac and I will tell you, we're not the only quality agents out there. There's some other really amazing agents that we've enjoyed working with. And so being able to be in the company of other high-producing, high-quality people, I think is an asset. And just learning from them without judging or even condemning yourself for that.
Yeah, great advice on humility and and so as you talked about, maybe even through the lean years, you were saying, or the early years that were just figuring it out.
They were super lean, yeah.
Yeah. Perseverance. Talk about perseverance. What did that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, as mentioned before, had and have an amazing wife to to be there for me. Not necessarily in all the ways that I wanted back then, but just kind of a steady, reliable source of support. But just in terms of perseverance, each day is new. God's mercies are new every day, every morning. And, one thing too is you can accomplish a lot in a year or 2 years, but you might still not hit your goal. But also not forgetting to look back and say, I've covered a lot of ground. I'm not where I want to be, but I've still covered a lot of ground. And so One thing Isaac did for me when he first got on board was he went through all of my sales volume for the past few years, and it was just like a stepladder going up every year, increasing by almost $1 million in volume every year for several years. And I still felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like I wasn't a great agent like some of the other agents that I know. And but just looking at that really made me realize, like, yeah, sticking with this was worth it.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing that. Isaac, what have you learned since you've been in the business a few years?
I feel like there's multiple things that I've learned, and if I'm thinking lately, what I've been trying to teach myself more and more is like, what does it look like to inform people before something happens? Then also, if something does happen, how do we make sure all parties acknowledge this? Either it could be a mistake, or it could be something that might deter the contract from being fully executed and going to the closing table. And so I'm like, okay, what does it look like to be honest with everything? Like every little thing, no stone untouched. And so just trying to make sure that all of my dealings with people are, okay, here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I'm seeing in my clients to the other agent. I'm like, all right, I'm seeing this. It might push us back on something, but I want to make sure you're aware so you have all your options, and laying out the options. I think that was probably the best thing I learned from Joel Dolliff, our broker, was he said, all right, your job, Isaac, is to lay out all your options. So you always have an option to cancel a contract. You always have an option to, let's say, you have a repair request and the roof's bad. You can always ask for that roof. You can always ask for this or that, or you can go back and forth, negotiate. So laying out our options has been super powerful, and just full disclosure with everything is the best route, in my opinion, in any business. Because when people don't feel like they're getting all the information they need to make a decision, then they're scared and live out of a different part of their brain, I'd say, when they're dealing with others. And so let's empower people, give them all the information they can have, and make it interesting at the same time, and help them get their dreams.
Yeah, and I'll take a moment to brag on Isaac for a bit. So he's just grown so much over the past couple of years here, and really sweats the details when like asking the right questions, clarifying. I mean, he's really a student of learning to seek clarity in every situation. And so I think he just serves his clients that much better. And the beautiful thing about taking that approach in our business is we don't ever have to feel like we're selling something. We just get to, we get to be your advisors to lay out the options. And then if it happens to be that one of the options includes not buying a house, like that's okay. Rather have that than have buyer's remorse or make a decision that ultimately isn't good for you or your family.
Yeah. Home buying is a large commitment.
Yeah, I think I heard from Chris Voss. He wrote the book, Never Split the Difference. He said that listing your home is a same level of anxiety as being in a hostage situation. And so I was like, how do we alleviate this stress? Because apparently it's way more stressful than it needs to be. But it's a big asset for people. It's extremely important to them. And so like, how do we steward and help them steward their asset?
Yeah.
And so I've thought about that a lot. It's like, geez, that's pretty high stakes right there if people are getting that stressed out about their property. And so we got to make sure to do everything we can to alleviate that stress.
And this is where clarity comes in, because I feel like some agents may be tempted to tell a seller what they want to hear, or, what the market might bring for their home. But if we're just honest up front, we share, kind of data-driven analysis, we don't have to backpedal later or,
Right.
Apologize when the home's on the market for 6 months. And so
we're not going to go in and tell somebody they're going to get 20 offers or 10 offers on their home. We're going to say, let's find the perfect offer for here, and then let's go with that. Otherwise, their expectations are just there, and that was not honest of us, and does not do them a justice, because they might think, oh, I was expecting this, so this offer must not be good. And so how do we help people with that?
Yeah. And I really appreciate that. That's my style of what I am most comfortable with is just getting a reasonable idea up front, so I know how to prepare, like frame of mind, where are we headed with this. But backpedaling. I don't enjoy that. I don't think anybody enjoys that, of like having to drop your listing price by 10 or whatever $1,000 or more.
And even if even we meet with them and say, hey, this is a possibility of us going down in price, telling them that beforehand instead of saying all of a sudden after 10 days on the market, I think we need to go down in price. But before they're expecting that because you told them. And so there's a lot of power in expectations.
Yeah, especially when people love spending money before they get it. You know, it's just human nature.
Yeah, you know that in the financial industry.
They're like, oh, that's like 10 guns or like a car. Yeah. All right. Well, good. Guys, what closing thoughts might you have to share on Real Wealth Podcast to help people live the best life possible as it relates to home purchase, stewardship, family, anything?
I think it's easy in the United States to have a DIY mentality. And I think I've learned that relying on experts for whether it be your finances, your insurance, your real estate is a good decision. I think most of the time, if there's a variety of services out there. So picking the right one, spending the time doing that, whether it be talking to 3 different electricians or 3 different plumbers, 3 different financial advisors or agents. It's valuable. It's time well spent. And I just encourage everybody to create their own concierge list of people that they can rely on.
That's great. And kind of along with that, I would say the more I operate like in life and business, life is really about relationships and it's about trust. And so you can go so much faster and further with trust and with relationships. And so I don't have to micromanage Isaac. I don't have to monitor the business checking account to see what's being spent or not spent. I can give him extreme trust and we have a strong relationship, and that just bleeds over into all that we do. And same thing with any professional. If I have, just trusting you on the financial side, we don't have to micromanage or look over all your work. Like we can just hand things over, know they're being professionally taken care of. And I think it was Stephen Covey who had the book or some training on like the speed of trust. You've got character, you've got competency. If you have both of those, it just makes life so much easier. And whether it's personal or business, you just have a way more beautiful, thriving quality of life that happens when you have relationships and trust. So that's what I would leave you with.
Yeah, that's great. I don't know that I've had any guests talk about trust in the same way, but it's so true. I mean, if you don't have trust in business or in relationships, it just slows everything down.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
it's not fun.
Yep. I know investors that, they're looking for a certain type of deal, and as long as it's coming from a good source, they don't have to go look at all the numbers themselves. They don't have to drive by the property. They don't have to do any of that. They just know this matches our criteria. You're bringing it to me. I trust you. And then in a few days you're closing. Like it's just that's how business works in a trusting environment. Otherwise, you've got just a ton of extra due diligence that, of course, you can do, but when you have that trust, it just goes so much faster.
Right. Yeah. If you can cut out all the double, triple checking, everybody's looking over each other's shoulders on every little thing. It gets really inefficient.
Yeah.
Yeah. And from the Marines, if everyone just does their job, you guys all stay alive and get through it.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Derek and Isaac, from At Home Wichita Real Estate.
Yes.
And all that you do for our community and your life lessons, business lessons to this point.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on Real Wealth Podcast. This has been another installment sponsored by Leading Edge Financial Planning. We hope you live the best life possible with the time you have left.
All right. Thanks so much for having us.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.